Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. How nice it would be if all mother sentient beings were free from suffering and the causes of suffering that are non-virtues. Our freedom from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Our freedom from suffering and the causes of suffering. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
What is the word to use one of the audience doing for some of them? Narrow, that was never so you can find it. When you go slow, not about so this is a total that so you can find it. Getting the cover down, nobody, which I say ways.
Next, we generate bodhicitta. First, we ask ourselves, who should take on the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of lower realms? I should take on the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of lower realms. Even though I should take on the responsibility, I do not have the abilities to do so now. Who has such abilities? Those who have achieved the perfectly complete enlightenment, the abilities to do so. Therefore, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, by all means, I will achieve the precious state of enlightenment. Next, we generate all-encompassing yoga mind. The aspiring conventional bodhicitta that thinks, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. These transform into a perfect, complete mundis at one's heart. And the ultimate bodhicitta, that is one's mind becoming in one taste with emptiness, the lack of inherent existence. All phenomena lack of inherent existence. These transform into a white five-pronged vajra on top of the mundis. Next, we meditate on emptiness for a short while. That I do not exist as inherently one with or intrinsically different from the aggregates. Thus, I do not exist inherently. If I were to exist as intrinsically or inherently one with the aggregates, then they would become inseparable partless one. If I were to exist as inherently different from the aggregates, they would become unrelatedly other. Depending on this reason, then one should ascertain in one's mind that I and the aggregates do not exist inherently. As I mentioned, it is very important to conjoin whatever roots of virtue that we perform through our 2 doors with the practice of 6 perfections. Thus, to conjoin this session with the practice of 6 perfections, the first one is generosity. The nature of generosity is a mind of giving. These 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma is for the sake of purifying suffering and achieving happiness of all sentient beings. If we are able to cause these minds of giving to manifest, then we will be able to conjoin this session with the practice of generosity. Next is morality. The nature of morality is a mind of abandonment. During these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma, I will properly abandon my physical and verbal negativities so that they do not manifest. If I can do so, cause these minds of abandonment to manifest, then this session would be conjoined with the practice of morality. Next is patience. The nature of patience is an undisturbed mind. During these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma, I will patiently accept any physical or mental hardships that occur. If I am able to do so, then this session these roots of virtue will be conjoined with the practice of patience. Next is joyous effort. The nature of joyous effort is a mind that takes delight in virtue. I will delightfully and enthusiastically engage in the roots of virtue of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma. If I am able to do so, then these roots of virtue will be conjoined with the practice of joyous effort.
Also, this is what the second we got to kill the name, but this only was something machine. That was a choosing name. Next time was a chip because he said the number of the no of the Hamaso. Then yes, I was a chip be shower of a saint, the city, no by now. This one is by the rest take us case of.
Next is concentration. The nature of concentration is a mind that single-pointedly focuses on any virtuous object. I will single-pointedly focus my mind on the virtuous object of the Dharma that I listen to, contemplate, and meditate on, without letting it fall under the control of distractions and discursive thoughts.
Here's a good so the but the was the machine. I'm not going to choose any of the chief because see that they're convenient, but there's such a moment where you put the shit over the I think because of the shit the
Next is wisdom. The nature of wisdom is a knower that thoroughly distinguishes phenomena. I will properly and unmistakably understand the words and meanings of the teaching that I listen to, contemplate, and meditate on.
That is for the point you he's in the 20 to the Sanji Kuboto, DHL. But I don't want to be chief in it's Sinjala Penda do Satus Jesus.
Set a good motivation. For the sake of all mother sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. For these, I will listen to the commentary on the Lam Rim teachings and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings.
Yeah. About some of the所喜力对吧？更加容易经历，所以经济行为吧，我们是在等待这里，我们这个是吧？
Yeah, so to continue where we left in previous class. So it says that even though one realizes that the reflection is empty of being a face, one doesn't realize the non-existence of the determining object of the true existence, true apprehensions. So even though one realizes the reflection is empty of being a face, one doesn't realize the non-existence of the determining object of the true apprehension.
那这里嘛，这是这个问题多是吧？我这个问题多呢，看到等到这些人，看到其他的那个几个大部的，那个大部些是老家的，看到的嘛都是过的，而实际的都看到，你，大部的，但我们去些东西，看到。讲啊，这不突然不没也是，你给下来讲的，这个对的东西也不是说刚才那个对的东西也不是说的那，是现在的我老师吧去啊，那听的东西，我没老的，没有的是我的嘛，然后就是刚才这个的东西那个，我到去老师吧，什么的东西我都也是你给写的嘛的是，你去我写的是。
So in Lam Rim, Jeremiah quoted 400 stanzas. It says, it is explained that a seer of one thing is a seer of everything. The emptiness of one thing is the emptiness of all. So the meaning of this verse, as it says in the Lam Rim, it explains that the seer or realizer of the emptiness of one thing and realize the emptiness of other things. So here is talking the meaning of this verse, saying that the seer or realizer of the emptiness of one thing. So when you realize the emptiness of one thing, then it is easier for you to realize the emptiness of other things. So that is what it means in this quotation. So one can realize, or one is able to realize, it's easier for one to realize the emptiness of other thing. So doesn't mean that the seer of or realizer of the emptiness of one thing also realize the emptiness of other things. So it doesn't mean that.
那第二个讲到这些的，有的你所有心里懂得多边的，但是那我也觉得，关于电视剧了，弄嘛的是这个生活的吧，那是这个有啊，嘛的是怎么的了，是吧？
And he says, the realization that the reflections of a face is empty of being a face does not in any way damage the object of one's apprehensions of true existence that apprehends the reflection to be established by way of its own, by way of its intrinsic nature or by way of its own entity.
那不忙了，你这搞的是那讲的，对的，我说学习的所谓的学习门的，不挺好的。 我说没有说这个门呢，让他学习的，没说这个等到学习时，等到学习我也晓得哇，这样的我说的，我也是说的，帮帮你的路去讲嘛，那个所以呢，对不对？你所以等我的这样的，我就多把我的马来啥好过了，帮我的马来他多把跟着不，就那个了哇，帮帮你了了，帮帮马进来这些了，就是那个学习嘛，你把他活动掉的是，不对。
Why does it say that it does not in any way damage the objects of one's apprehensions of true existence? Is that so when one realizes the reflections of a face as not being a face, as empty of being a face. So as empty of being a face means that it is not a face, it's not a real face, it's not a true face. So even those who have not trained in the meaning of emptiness, they can tell that the reflection is not a real face.
哦，那学习就是呢，学习嘛，一把多的，但学习就是呢的学习的，所以的呢，那学习的东巴多，我才看到学习东巴多，那天天的我差的，那的基本上的，就是那基本上的，这里啊，看你了呀，呀，我差不多啊，我学习就是呢的学习东巴多的，那这个学习东巴多，谁能马上看到？ 学习中的学习嘛，一把都是大了的，是吧？学习中的学习嘛，一把多的，按照学习中的学习都把多些了。
So he says that the realization that the reflections of a face is empty of being a face. So basically, what it means is one realizes that the reflections of a face is not a face. So if you are not familiar with the terms, then the meaning of this is the realization that the reflections of a face is empty of being a face, is not a face, is not being a face.
哦，但是跟他学习的所有的学习能进的，进的我就说啊，进把的年纪嘛的看的，年纪嘛是吧？学习中的学习能进的个就说啊，进的落的年纪嘛的，是吧？中的学习能进落的年纪嘛的。 내 렌즈 많이 봤습니다. 다 시기지 중에 대 시기지 동방 어디 또네 한다. 그 렌즈를 단면 내가 그 이거 말이야. 렌즈를 배우고 나면 만약에 이제 얼마씩 렌즈에서 시기 눈에랑 시기지 눈에랑 진짜 그만 지금 정말이 렌즈가 시기지 눈에 주는 정말 좋아. 시기지 눈에랑 주는 정말 렌즈래. 시기지 눈에 시기도 지금 정말 렌즈 말이야. 근데 제발샤. 나도 제발샤 와. 시기 눈에 시기는 지금 정말 렌즈 말이야. 시기지 눈에 라는 관점에 정말 렌즈를 했어. 나도 칼에서 와.
So one needs to understand. The difference between these two. One is the thought that apprehends the reflections of a face as being a face. That thought is not a true grasping, or another way of saying this is not apprehensions of true existence. However, then the second one is the thought that apprehends the reflections of a face as fully existence, as inherently existence, or as intrinsically existence. So that is a true grasping, or the apprehensions of true existence. So one needs to understand the difference between these two. The first one is the thought that apprehends the reflections of a face as being a face. So that is not a true grasping, or the apprehensions of true existence. However, the thought that apprehends the reflections of a face as intrinsically existent, that is a true grasping, or the apprehensions of true existence. So since the thought that apprehends the reflections of being a face as being a face is not a true grasping, therefore realizes that the reflection is not a face or empty of being a face, doesn't harm or doesn't contradict or doesn't damage the true grasping.
다 간다베 가가차서 순이랑 그 진지 주관 진거의 된지레스 시기지 순이 시기는 되면 진바데 된지 말레스 그 된지 많이 봐서자 아데 순이 시기지 순이데 시기지 똥바도 별로데 똥만이 또 별로 적어요 똥만 또 별로 적어요 시기지 순이 시기도 똥바도 별로데 돈이도 별로 이나 그래서 순이랑 그 진지 주변 진비 시를 내고요 어디 돈이도 별로 적어요 말와 많이 봐서자 에 된다고데 다 손이랑 진짜 그만 진짜 시에들라 배우고 말이 많이 받아 시에 매받아 보고요 말이에요. 와 어디들
Yeah, so the thought that apprehends the reflections of a face as being a face is not a true grasping or the apprehensions of true existence. Since it is not a true grasping, therefore the thought that realizes the reflections of a face as empty of being a face doesn't become a thought that realizes the emptiness of the reflection. Since it doesn't become a thought that realizes the emptiness of the reflections, it will not in any way harm or contradict or damage the true grasping. If it was the thought that realizes the emptiness of the reflections, then it must harm the true graspings. Since it is not a thought that realizes emptiness of the reflection, it doesn't damage true grasping.
어디 다 손이랑 그 진지 그만 진바 이 시에는 스미냐고 해서나 손이랑 그 진지 모두 받도 별로 되게 되는 거다. 난 내게서 와 손이랑 그 진지 그만 진비 시에도 수있는 거 해서나 다 손이랑 그 진지 모두 받도 별로 되게 뭐는 있어요.
Karen có xỉn như là
순이랑 그 진지 그만 진비 시에 쇼로와 시에데 다 손이랑 그 진지 두 가지래 안다 시에서는 맞아요. 손이랑 그 진지 두 가지 시에들라 수익 내고래 너 수익 내고래서 그 손이랑 그 진지 주변 동안도 별로 되게 내고래 손이랑 그 진지 주변 동안도 별로 되게 손이랑 그 진지 주변 집이 시에들라 내고래 그 시에들 내에서 어디 시에들 내봐도 하고 좋아 손이랑 그 진지 주변 집이 시에들 내봐도 그 시에들 내봐도 어디 손이랑 그 진지 주변 집이 별로 되라 돼 어디 얘가 내려
xỉn như để mấy bà để tổ này để tiền xin để lại anh tiền được rồi. Yeah. So the thought that apprehends the reflections of a face as inherently existent or intrinsically existent. So who will harm the determining object of this true grasping or the apprehensions of true existence? So the one will harm the determining object of this true grasping is the thought that realizes the reflections is empty of intrinsic existence. So the thought that realizes the reflections of a face is empty of intrinsic existence or empty of inherent existence. So this thought will harm the determining object of the true grasping that grasps the reflections as being truly existent. So this thought, the thought that realizes reflections of a face as empty of inherent existence, will harm the determining object of the true grasping. So the meaning of harm is realizing the non-existence of it. So another way of saying this is the thought that realizes reflections of a face as empty of inherent existence does realize the non-existence of the determining object of the true grasping. So it harms the determining object and it harms the true grasping as well. So in brief, what he's trying to say here is the thought that realizes the reflection as empty of being a face does not realize the non-inherent existence of the reflection. In this paragraph, it talks about the reflection of a face is empty of being a face. And another example is, even if you realize that illusions are empty of being horses and elephants. And the third analogy is the appearances in dreams are empty of what they appear to be. So the three analogies are mentioned here. So even if you realize that the reflections of a face is not a face, even if you realize that the appearance, the illusory horse and elephants that is conjured up by the magicians is empty of being horses and elephants. Even if you realize that the appearances such as mountain and water in the dreams are empty of what they appear to be, even if you realize that they are not the object they appear to be, but one haven't found the Madhyamika view that realizes that objects are like illusions and dreams. So one haven't found the Madhyamika view, even if you realize that they are the reflections of a face, illusory horse and elephants, the appearances in the dreams are empty of what they appear to be. So there is a reason for taking the illusions as analogies. The reflections, the illusory horse and elephant, and etc. as analogies. There is a reason for it.
수다 소지 취일 수다다 공부 소지 취일 수리나 장기면 뭐라 이제 배샤가 예식 그다 배샤가 이제 와 그러다 수리다 주마 땅에서 하고다 동물이 도와라 배샤고로 배샤고로 최단 주마 땅에 자라 배샤고로 한다 그때 배샤고의 규제에 수다다 공부라서 봐 소위 취일 소리 봐 Zune zoro ngi me ba la yi jin ji ta su sha wa re se wa sha bu ji
So reason for taking them as analogies is because it is easier to realize that they do not inherently exist compared to other phenomena like forms and sounds and other aggregates. Yeah, so in order to realize the meaning of emptiness, when the examples these examples are mentioned. So the reason is it is easier to realize that they do not exist inherent existent compared to other phenomena.
da ti de da kan da zune de na ngo ni ji zang ji dong ba se wa de na da ji de ba de rang ni ce kan ni ba de na ba she de to la che de mo wa ni ni ga wa de ne to jo re se to di ma re wa
So that they are empty of inherent existence, established by way of their intrinsic natures, is proven by showing the contradiction between the way they actually abide and the way they appear to the mind. So the way they actually abide and the way they appear. So this is the modes of abiding, and this one is modes of appearance.
da de wo lo kan na ji de na jin ba de da so ni zang ji de na ji ba de chi cha wo wa ni da ma so da kan da wa zune se jin ba de bi chi de de bi de da to ma ra yi me ba ko ke ne de ne ji de na jin ba ma da de chi de ne da ra yi me ba chi wo re se de da bi sha wa de wa to ma kan na ji de na jin ba de chi de de bi sha so bi se de de da ra shi me ba to ne ji de na jin ba ma da de chi de na ji de da ra yi me to ba ba chi ya la da kan da 이제 대화나 그런데 우리 예수가 된다 들어와.
So you need to first allow yourself to realize that these examples that are well known in the world to be false, lack inherent existence. So the examples that are well known in the world to be false, you need to understand that these examples are lack of inherent existence. And then generate the realization that other phenomena that are not well known in the world to be false also lack inherent existence. So if you realize the examples that are well known in the world to be false, lack of inherent existence, then it's easier for you to realize other phenomena that are not well known in the world to be false, also lack of inherent existence.
다 간다 치 지고 다 제가 말도 치 되니라. 나이 그 진바. 나시 진바도 마시오디. 다 치게 배 돈이 또 바나. 치게 들어와. 소리도 되게 돈만이 또 바나. 치게 한지 돈이 돼. 우는 것이 또 그거도 말에 또 봐도 뭔가 말이에서 와. 또 봐도 뭔가 말이 다르지 가르는 것은 치이 내가 연매라서 뭐 가셔 봐도 또 그래서 안다 소리도 되게도 저런지 뭐 돈만이 또 어디 치셔다 공부다 가자로서 말 간지나 되게도 전체다 이거 뭐 또 그래서 내가 가서 상호 추지 딱 봐이나 또 해라 이거 예서 뭐 참아 진짜도 동료만 다 한데 뭐저 공부 때도 오니 또 어디 야 강사를 때도 예 리다 강치라서 봐 대답 때도 동반이 정말 공부시고요 만다 아 만다 공부 때도 동반이 오늘이 현다 주달라서 봐 간지나 그때 이제 동반이 또 하나 해라 이거 예서
So it says the significance of having a sequence wherein one of these two comes first and the other follows. So basically, the reason this sequence. So one realizes the emptiness of one first, then other follows. So and then you realize the emptiness of other phenomena. So there is a reason or there is a significance of having this sequence. So the significance is not that by realizing the emptiness of a single phenomenon, the emptiness of every other phenomenon is explicitly realized. So it doesn't mean that when you realize the emptiness of a phenomenon, then you also realize explicitly the emptiness of other phenomena. And it doesn't mean that when you realize the emptiness of one phenomena, at the same time, you realize the emptiness of other phenomena. So what it means is, rather, the significance is that when the mind turns to another phenomenon to consider the way it exists, it can realize it. So the meaning is, when you realize the emptiness of one phenomenon, then it's easier for you to realize the emptiness of other phenomena, such as persons, such as other aggregates, without contemplating many reasoning. Then you can easily realize the emptiness of other phenomena. It's easier for you to realize the emptiness of other phenomena.
Ati wolinda, tanda wolinda daji konda dabu dabore. Suni so, na, suni rangi jima, koto bani cheba ye gusi dewa. Cheba ye gusi de, daji konda jisheba, tanda dodo, tanda chibarare, chibarare dewa.
So that being so, to know that one is in a dream and to realize that the appearances of men, women, and so forth are empty of being actual men, women, and so forth is not the same as viewing dreams all phenomena to be dreamlike. So the meanings of this paragraph is similar to what I have already explained, what it has already explained.
Kanda milana teshina chebada pime, aso milana chebada pime la soba tendi nawa te nashi naimba bato baterwa eto jela milana china milana tola so kiba tawo wa ko ba te kanda milana akwa tsanji wa milana te tendi chebada pime la soba nawa ni kamba ko bata te tomba to bata yebi tomba to wada da milana bata nambeso nawa aru te tomba to that's some of the killer jargon. You know, about the number of the big no on the no thing about that is a tombato de Canada. You know, that but the need that cheaper is not that on the much that Milana, tombato but so Rangi Madubi, that Jumata in a Rangi Madubi, what the number in that is Rangi Madubi Jumata. But the cheaper is number. Yes,
So here it says that to know that one is in a dream and to realize that the appearances of men, women, and so forth are empty of being actual men, and women, and so forth. So it means that in a dream, you realize that the appearances of men, women are not the actual men and women. So it doesn't. It is not the same as viewing those phenomena or those appearances as dreamlike. So as said in the ornament for clear realization, even in your dreams, view all phenomena like dreams, so forth. So similarly, the realization in the meditative experience during concentration meditation, that appearances like thoughts. So when you're doing meditation or doing concentration meditations, then there are appearances like thoughts in woolen cloth. So when you realize that these appearances of pots and woolen cloth are empty of what they appear to be, so they are not what they appear to be, then does not have the same meaning as the realizations they are like illusions and dreams that are not inherently established. So even though you realize that the appearances of pots and woolen of cloth are empty of what they appear to be, it doesn't mean that you have already realized the non-inherent existence of the illusion, the non-inherent existence of the appearing pots and woolen cloth.
That didn't tend to think Marie Segura. That end of materials, that way, naturally, when it's all of it, it's all of thinking, you might have what I was saying. You might get the chance to Chuma might be Lepatsi, which that trade on the Juma in the church was a bit, and that the country chum with the Tiji about Cheshu, also that on the Tiji about Children. As you put the ship about the Nash, about the no machine. Here's on the about the Sumio. Yes. I'm going to be Jumataba, who said, dig it together, I was a teacher.
So therefore, you should investigate well the uncommon manner in which things appear like an illusion, set forth in the scriptures and treatises of definitive meaning, let's say something should be known to be like an illusion and a dream. So the meaning is merely realizing that the appearances of pots and woolen cloth in your dreams or in your concentration practice are empty of what they appear to be doesn't mean that one realizes the non-inherent existence of those appearing objects.
나 최단데 간다 주막이는 자체도 그게 야부지 지에서 나도 된다 이게 그냥 된다 거기 주막다 가는 경우에는 먼저 네 남샤지 가서 와 남샤지 가서 네 공부는 되더라로 와 공부는 남샤지 가서 공부는 밥 남샤지 가서 공부는 되더라 한번 샤네 남바샤네 봐 안다 로와 나무다 영원이가라 돈이 내가 마시도 나무다 영원이가라 돈이 내가 마시고 공부에 나와서와 근데 싸우니면
돈이 내가
마시마도 와 돈이 나무다 영원이가라 돈이 내가 마시마도 현다 공부에 싸우니 나오면 맞지 이 가서 남자 뒤에 가서 남샤 는 갔다 오세요 그래 이 가서 남자 상기들 남샤 는 갔다 응 아무도 지라
So when at the time of an Arya's meditative, when an Arya is in the meditative equipoise, single-pointedly focus on the meaning of emptiness. At that time, the appearance perspective and the ascertainment perspective, So there is So there is only the non-affirming negatives of emptiness. There is only the non-affirming negative emptiness that sorry. From the perspective of appearance and from the perspective of ascertainment, there is only the non-affirming negative emptiness. And there is no other conventional appearance. So there is only the non-affirming negative, the emptiness, and there is no other conventional there is no other conventional appearances. So at that time, it's called the space-like meditative equipoise. So I repeat. So at the time of an Arya in the meditative equipoise, so he single-pointedly focus on the meaning of emptiness from the perspective of appearance and from the perspective of ascertainment. There is only the non-affirming negatives, emptiness, and there is no other conventional appearances. So at that time, it is called the space-like meditative equipoise.
that day goes the notion of what so that day goes notion daily so down the 와 notion down the you 가서 책 반드시 배 수능에서 봐 수능에서 책 반드시 배 와이나 에 notion 되기 니보다 지게 마야의 도지 책 반드시 차와이나 이거 다시
영샤기 지마냐 봐.
notion 지마야 이번에 많이 왔을 때 와 notion 지마야 봐도 또 니보고 휴지로 그 마야의 토니 책이 수달라서 책 반드시 kunjuk 책을 차와이나 kunjuk 책 강가 주만 하시 당시 주비 동안 주만 하시 무슨 차는 예세고 당연히 그 주만 차는 때려다 주만 차는 예세 와 네 나샤가 니보다 많이 녀잖아 kunjuk 책 가는 자세야 주만 하시 차 동요
규마다 보디 차로.
어디 주마다 차로
예스 리냐 뭐이나디 최탐기디 규마다 보디 차로.
저거 나샤가 니보다 더 시디야 나 차도 말해시고 와 차도 말해시 kunjuk 책 가는 나도 주만 하시 차로 가 아니 주나 뭐냐 정말 또 대버도 나오냐
Yeah, so when one arises from that meditative equipoise, so one goes to the post meditations, then while the strength of the meditative equipoise, or while the power of the meditative equipoise has not yet degenerated, or has not yet ceased, so meaning that one still has the power of that thought still exists or is still there. So when the power of that thought is still exists, then whatever conventional phenomena appears, such as body and etc., appears like an illusion. So, however, when the force of that meditative equipoise has degenerated, then any conventional phenomena, when they appears, they do not appears like an illusion.
오 되는 지다거나 저는 지마다고 자서데 깜짝 놀고 그래 맞아 그때 강자게 담에라 때 상로야 또네 그때 다도 맞고 랑 지금 동안 상로야 보다 아마 특별히 가서 수수 뛰는 막 페이션나 단 지구였다 내가 맨처럼 하다 보면 말게 강자게 담에라 상로야 일단 강자게 담에는 되게 사사지 수수가 하고 와 거기 기습과 제도와 기습과 상샤를 실제로 공부라서 봤는데 미칠 봤다 오늘 어디요 내 강사 나는 지금 뭐 나신 내가 집안에 사사지 저 길이니에서 가다 내가 보지 좋아 맞아 강사가 상호다 강사랑 진짜 좋은 분도 그래서 내가 상호다 딱 맞아 강사 그게 일단 일을 좀 차기지야 맞아 차기지야 저도 때 최신 공부라서 같이 강사들 나시랑 같이 좋은 분도
참 샤베가블라.
내가 그 제도 시작할 때 계속 와 차샤네 차샤게 봐 쓰다 봐 차샤 제가 봐 차샤네 지금 계속 와 원진대 봐 차샤네 공부를 봐 다 공부가 왔네 강사들 나시 진짜 공부 사 다 들리는 이거 이게 했어 맞다 써 배자고 왔다가다
So for an ordinary being, for an ordinary beings, it is difficult for the space-like meditative voice to happen. However, the actual one, for an ordinary beings, it is difficult for one to have the actual space-like meditative equipoise, in which one thinks that the person do not exist inherently. In which one properly thinks about the selflessness of person. So even though an ordinary beings cannot have this actual space-like meditative equipoise, however, when one meditate on the meaning of emptiness and properly thinking about the non-inherent existence of person, and when one rises from the meditation, then when one sees a form, for example, a form, sound, etc. So one can understand that they, just like the person, do not exist inherently.
다 주말에 자주 팀을 만나면 벌써 그 샤워 다 내려다 와 이렇게 봐 샤워세 이거는 막 이거 내가 그걸 막아야 시비 수도 끼워는 거 봐. 수도 끼워는 거래. 나도 맞아 시바들 다 메뉴 손이라 시기도 나와 나신 진도가 다 간다. 나와도 진반니가 당가서 나와도 현반니가 열라나 지고 다 간다.
네, 지금 제가 맞아.
뭐자 하자. 무슨 이마 이마 다 여기 당하고 좀 나와다 현반니가 이게 나와 있는 현반니 이게 나와서 비시한테 취사해 봐. 그 집에 여기 당하고 들어와. 여기 당하고 들어네. 그때라 네. 나와 당하고 나와 여자 현반니게. 나와서 현반니가 여기 나와서 현반니가 매개서 가서 뭐 비시하인 봐. 이 취사해 봐. 다 대나시 다다데 다라 마샤이 시바게 메루비 소니라 시기서 진짜 지바다 시기는 나와나 신세요. 나와나 시 대해서 되는 거로 되는 거.
那我有把当先把没把当，你这那我当先把你个有把，
那是你个没吧？
那是你个没把送好的了。
这是吧？你那个在高度上头，那个对吧？大了马上西的，还有说呢了，那西京说的真吧？那西京的那的话，那是西京的先吧？真吧？咱先吧是吧？先吧？那居民的，那居民到点么就了，点么这个居民的当然是。那是你个有，那是你个有个，那你个，那是你个个家庭对不对？那先把你个有对吧？居民点么有了吧？点么？
不过呢，点那我当先把你个有了哇。
那先把你个，你得提，那马上有习惯有了吧？那我先把你个有吧，现在。来居民点么？但居民还是没来把这说了吧？居民还是没来点么的了。刚刚那我先把你个有了吧？那我带了居民点么那居民那我当然顺心吧，这个对吧？那些你个有，是吧？他没让他调了，他没让他买些的，对，那也是在看清楚是吧？对，看清老师吧，对呢，因为没办法把他调完， that's the way my car, the way, and Zimba, he don't know Jimmy or his own. That is also what's a picture that no one the Himaniga, and then don't live that day. No one the Himaniga, you are. What day? Jimmy Donald, no one the Himaniga.
Excuse me. So having said this, the following are similar to each other. A pre-verbal child who apprehends a reflection in the mirror as a face, and a spectator or audience, so who doesn't know about illusions, but apprehends illusory appearances as an actual horse and elephants and so forth. And someone in the dream who is unaware of it, and therefore apprehends the appearances of mountains, houses, and so forth as real mountains, houses, and so forth. So, referring to regarding these examples, in one of the subject we talked about the illusory horses and elephants, a magician, and then who conjures up the illusory horses and elephants out of the magical substances. And then there are audience who are looking at it, and then there are audience who have just arisen, who is not affected by the magical substances, and etc. So in that examples, we talked about the two factors. One is appearance, and another one is the apprehension. Appearance and apprehensions. So there are three combinations. The first combination is there is appearance, but there is no apprehension. And the second one is there is appearance and there is apprehension. And the third one is there is no appearances and there is no apprehensions. So now the examples I mentioned in here is a pre-verbal child, the audience who do not know about the illusions, and someone who is unaware of the dream, then refers to the second combination, which is there is appearance and there is apprehensions.
我在等待的那就被小说的怎么流行当然这个电视呢居民自己米那边居民自己米那边电话对了那么新闻你看有吧那老是吧老是吧我到老是那么新闻你看有多少第一就是呀电话到了想的我定给的没了那的些把那的那么的那么多我到电视的我说对一下那我就新闻的
那我有件新闻
那我有新闻的电视大大都会他的家庭话다른 곳은 이거 나라 상황 저기 변나와 내 힘을 좀 말아 된다 근데 그거 시작으로 와 대사를 정말 그게나 그런 거 그래도 그 힘 말아 그런 수요로 와 정말 이거 하고 그러 와 한국어라다 근데 뭐나 이거 힘을 쓰나와 힘을 쓰게 모여서 이거 하고 그러 와 나도 저거 나와 이제 힘을 봐 나 대다 자 니게자 나 대코는 이제 따와 니 말이다 아나 들리 나와 저러 그러 와 대코는 이제 따와 니 말이다当你把马里斯本来的，因为那我那些没把它还不有了啊，那我那就还没把它，也不怎么就就把它，那些那时也不当了小做的，你那我有的，那我那些，是吧？那我那些得了没把还不有的，没把得了没把还过来的，我们就到我你们是得马里斯啊，那我那些没把它还过了啊，那我那些没把它还过的，你那我那些没把的还过的，我们就到我你们是得那个马里斯啊。
So the first three examples, pre-verbal child, the audience who doesn't know about illusions, and someone who is unaware of the dream, and then apprehends those appearances in the dreams as real. Then these three are the examples that illustrates the second combination, that there is appearance and there is apprehension. So on the other hand, a more mature person, a magician, and a lucid dreamer. So a lucid dreamer also means that someone who is aware of a dream. So someone that knows a dream as a dream. So this is also is translated as lucid dreamer. So are also similar in that they know their particular appearances be untrue. However, neither group has found the view of suchness. So these three examples mentioned here, a more mature person, a magician, and a lucid dreamer. So it refers to the first group. So there is appearance, but there is no apprehension. So meaning that for a mature person, so the reflections of a face is empty of a face. more mature person knows that it is empty of being a face. And then the magician, so the magician conjures up the illusory horses and elephants. So for magicians, there is appearances of horse and elephant. However, magicians do not apprehend it as the real horse and elephant. So similarly, for a lucid dreamer who is aware a dream as a dream, who is aware of a dream, then they know that those appearances in the dream is not a real mountains, horse, and etc. So even though they realize that those appearances in the mirror, the illusory horse and elephant, and those appearances in the dream as not being the real horse and elephant, as not being a real face, as not being a real mountain and houses. However, it doesn't mean that they have already realized the meaning of emptiness. So therefore, it says neither group. So first group and the second group. So both of them have not found the view of suchness or emptiness. Yeah, because the pedi shasa the vedi jasa the lower that's all. No wola de ni di kaza kimata bu ngwe chachu di ro.
Oh, that jumata ngwe chachu di wa.
Yeah, so the next is going to talk about the appearance, the actual appearance of illusion-like, the actual illusion-like appearance. So the actual illusion-like appearance happens to meditative, an Arya who is on the meditative, who single-pointedly focus on the meaning of emptiness in the meditative equipoise. So when these Arya being arises from the meditative equipoise, all phenomena, whatever conventional phenomena it is, it appears like an illusion. So these appear like an illusion is the actual illusion-like appearances.
Oh, dear. That was the Jumata. Mother, and that, don't you like, you might be doing it, no, I said, you came, but no, she never, never the shower. There was a bit like the judge, at Kumbani, I took a she will walk. Funny to a deep she would that about Roger, so there was no other chamber, you get no other chamber. No, she nigga, you get it. No, she nigga, only want to be so chill with this law. Only want to be so chill with the law. Not on that chair on it. Demo to one. No one shaded this or only want to be so chill to the chair on the YouTube. No one shaded this war. Only want to be so chill. No one she nigga, you did be how.
So in previous subject, then we talk about the same example as a magician conjures up the illusory horses and elephants, and then we link this example to the actual meaning. And in that context, we talk about the actual meanings is one realizes the meaning of emptiness. So as a refresher, so I would like to briefly go through it. So regarding the first, regarding the combinations of have the appearance and also have the apprehensions. So it refers to an ordinary being who doesn't realize emptiness. So phenomena appears as truly existent, appear as inherently existent, and there is apprehensions of all phenomena as truly existent or inherently existent. So the one who has the appearance and apprehensions refers to ordinary beings who doesn't realize emptiness.
그래. 또 신문이가 이게. 신문이가 내게 된 거죠. 오늘 또 무슨 저어들이. 오늘 또 무슨 저어디. 오늘 또 무슨 저어디다. 뭔가 이번 주 만난 거에 되나. 신마신 이제 가서
나원이가 매게.
나와서 신문이가 내게 용기를 샷으로 하기. 당신이가 용기를 와. 나와 이제 신문이게.
나와 여기는 신문 매게.
신문 매게 돈이 또 무슨 저어디. 자기 돈이 뭐또 무슨 저어디로 와. 돈이 또 무슨 저어디게. 아, 라니 지금 내가 유튜브 나온 거래. 아니, 뭐는 신경 말해. 아니, 이제 가서 지금 이제 따라서 돈을 와. 이제 따라서
삼지랑 시도
이제 따라서 돈이 우요 와. 돈이 또 우요 와서다. 그때가 좀 있어요. 우요 와서다 딴 나온 거래 되는 힘바디가 말해서.
삼지 미간 따유점.
이제 따라서 돈을 와.
And then the second one is there is appearance, but there is no apprehensions. So it refers to ordinary beings who realizes emptiness. So there is appearance, but there is no apprehension. So it refers to ordinary beings who realizes emptiness. So phenomena appears as truly existent, appears as inherently existent, but they do not apprehend as such. So because those ordinary beings have already realized emptiness. So means that they have already realized that all phenomena are imputedly existent by mere name. They are merely imputedly existent. Yeah, they are merely imputedly existent by mere name. So they realize that since they realize that they do not apprehend those phenomena as inherently existent.
네. 나오는 신문이가 몇개 돼. 오늘 지금 나오는 법이나 샤바도 잘 비교로. 법이나 샤바도. 오늘 지금 나오는 법이나 샤바도 나와요. 뭐 신문에 대버트가 나와요. 뭐 대버트가 신문에 됐어.
Yeah. So then the third one is there is no appearance, and there is no apprehensions. Then example can be the Arya being who is in the meditative equipoise, who single-pointedly focus on the emptiness. So an Arya being who is in the meditative equipoise, who single-pointedly focus on emptiness. So for them, there is no appearance, and there is no apprehension.
That is what is the further Maria. And that is that Gaji said no, the ginger, the jinky, maybe the Misia, the Nawa, Chedare model, that is what you're in the house.
Or the
What am I doing? That's
the Gaji no need.
Oh, the Gaji.
Yeah. So then the next outline is the fallacious manner of appearing like an illusion. So here it indicates the counterfeit modes of appearance. So counterfeit illusion as the modes of appearance like an illusion. Yeah. So here it talks about or indicates the counterfeit modes of appearance like an illusion. Counterfeit modes of appearance like an illusion. So then the first one is having mistaken the measure or the limit of the object of negations. Then one thinks that there is no object of analysis and there is no analyzer. And similarly, there is no and there is appearance of So there is no object of analysis, there is no analyzer, and the appearance is fake or indistinct that one cannot tell this is this and this is that.
That Gaji said, Lepa, we must be Yula. Gaji said, Lepa, you must be that you Bob Kansa ticket, Yutila, you Bob Kansa ticket, Yutila, repeat Jiwura, you Bob Kansa ticket, Yutila, repeat Jiwura, Labor Yamish. You can so, Jiw Kansa de so, Chada, Churches of Patani. Nichiba showing the bus so there were
Karichat or
Chava so this one. Nichada Jajipa, money, where she would what even Medusa. The name Medusa, maybe number Jinguris and Medusa, yes, or did they would definitely change it like Jinky Rania, I said it doesn't be Jinky Rania, Rania, money, but they called the Nashi, and that didn't do one, Medusa didn't do one. They told it, they never in here. Never in here, they are Nashi, take on 내 마인지 이제 그냥 셔사메 봐 간다들라 너 로아 대소메 비빈나 비비다고 나 예스다 뭐 다더서 비비 나는 예세 와 비비 나와도 간다 맞다 그렇지 말해세 내가 비비 나와도 간다 주마다니 예세 때 말해세 내 나와 그다 드리게 시고도
기메답이 된 말와
지미다베 너서 때 말해세다 지미게 때 말해세다 지미 내가 너서 때 말해세.
So if the measure of the objects of negation explained above has not been grasped well, and the object is analyzed by means of reasoning and broken down, the thought will first arise that that object does not exist. When the analyzer is also seen to be like that, and since the ascertainer of his non-existence is also non-existent, any ascertainment in terms of it is this and not that becomes impossible. Then the vague appearances that arise do so depending on the failure to differentiate inherent existence and non-existence and etc. So up to this point. So if one doesn't if one doesn't grasp well the measure of the object of negations, then when one realizes the object with reasoning, so then when they break down the parts of the object in the analysis, when one mentally breaking down the parts of the object, then one do not find the object. So one do not find the object, then one thinks that that object do not exist. And then the same person then thinks that the analyzer himself or herself is also seen to be like that, do not exist. And then the ascertainer of his non-existence is also non-existence. So the ascertainer of his non-existence also do not exist. Then the ascertainment in terms of it is this and not that becomes impossible. So appearance become vague or indistinct, that you cannot tell it is this and it is not that. So, and even though the appearance is vague or is indistinct, so it is still not the meaning of illusion-like appearance.
What do you want to mind? I want to tell anybody. They know English. Our GD, you are my umitawa. That didn't come out. The dinner report, the ship on the machine is pretty GOD. As long as the GOD, I don't want to be in this student job. Little say, one, the dash one, the Latin, no one is a big chawata. She on the Kawa, yes, our Michi, Roa, maybe the Chawa, she on the Kawa Michi. Chanu did and our maybe to tell her, which is actually to take it. Change, she becomes that time, not to be what it is. Changing to the kind of 100 years. Other Madam, don't shoot up the Dalachipa and that.
So then the vague appearances that arise do so depending on the failure to differentiate inherent existence and non-existence on the one hand from mere existence and non-existence on the other. So one is failed. These vague appearances arise because of one is failed to differentiate the inherent existence, non-inherent existence, inherent existence, non-existence, mere existence, and non-existence. One failed to differentiate these four, then one will have this. Then the vague appearances or indistinct appearances will arise. So therefore, such an emptiness is an emptiness that also destroy dependent arising. So it also destroy dependent arise.
Such a woman,
사실 차상대 조차인데. Yeah. So it also destroy dependent arising. Hence, even though the vague appearances arise induced by that realization, this is not at all the meaning of being like an illusion. So that is why it's not difficult upon reason analysis to conclude that persons and so forth do not in the least have a modes of subsistence established by way of their intrinsic natures on top of the objects, and for appearances to simply arise vaguely depending on that. Yeah, something like that occurs to everyone with an interest in Madhyamika tenets who has heard a little bit of Dharma being taught about how there is no inherent existence. So the meaning here is the same as the above, that one is interested in the Madhyamika tenets, but one only heard a little bit of Dharma, talking about the non-inherent existence. So these will happen to them. So thinking that if things do not exist inherently, that things do not exist at all.
강한테 손바간다 양답이 주마 차가서서 딘다 차가서는 장이 메보다 미전지 되어봐 미소니 봐세 차가서 어디만 쉬어야 와 어디만 쉬어야 차가서서 와 이만한 차가서 뒤때가 마셔야 있어 아도도 지로는 사부.
Yeah. So then next is the difficult point is to appear correctly like an illusion. So that the correct modes of appearance like an illusion. So the difficult point is, while being non-inherent existence, but the objects of a mere name exist. So we need the combinations of these two. So that is why it is difficult with regard to the point that it appears like an illusion, because it is, while being lack of inherent existence, the object of mere name exists. So we need the combinations of these two.
차가서도 내려들어와 and 주마답을 차치 가서가 내려로 제가 주마답이 차치 가서 내려 들어와 가서서 가서서 주마답이 차치 가서가 내려서 생리돼 가서서 지와 오 저는 주마답이 차치 가서 하서 가서 내디 이 샤오데 가서 내려 답을 샤오데 강사로서 되와 강사로서 되도 상게 왜 이런 말이 그다가 강사로서 왜 그러나 이 말이 키우디 나기 된다 내기 강사로서 봐 나도 말이 키우리다 바로 속에 나기 주가 키우리 강사로서 내서 봐 무슨 들리려 와 강사로서 키우리 된다 이 강사로서 봐 내서 봐보다 내진 대본 영화보 내서 봐보 내진 대본 영화보 라서 봐 조츠데 된 조츠데 로마 봐다 바로 강사 된 조 누구야 와 나기 와 키우리 나기 주가 키우리 내서 봐보다 대본 영화보 라서 봐 그쪽에 노트바를 아상모야 보지 땅으로 예세고 와 니 빠띵이 도시다 와 그래서 근데 아니 또야랑 이게 거이나야 강사들아 나한테 또 이나야 그래서 봐봐 되나 조도비 이쪽 대가지 우리 레서 봐봐 노트바 아니 또 혼자 레서 봐봐 조도비 니 조시 니 좋아돼 니 좋아돼 된게 진짜 무슨 꿈이 딱와 니 가서도 니 좋대 진짜 저도 수이나 하자깔리 커버리 해서와 하자깔리 커버리 꿈이 따와지 힘내가와 뒤에서 우리가 힘내가와 뒤에서 어디 노도 되다 실장이나 쓰지데
So even though it's not difficult for the above to appear in that way, so however, the difficult point is to achieve certainty from the depths of one's heart about both negating all inherent existence established by way of an intrinsic nature and perceiving those inherently non-existent persons and so forth as accumulators of karma, experiences of effects, and so forth. So since that combinations of two, so the combinations of two refers to negating all inherent existence. At the same time, you can perceive those inherently non-existence as the accumulator of karma, experiences of effects, and so forth. So since that combinations of two that enables one to proceed both is next to impossible, it's almost impossible, means that it's very difficult to proceed the combinations of these two. So it is extremely difficult to find the Madhyamika view. So all phenomena, so the difficult point is, it is difficult for all phenomena to appear like an illusion. So the difficult point is, while for opponents, when they negate the inherent existence of phenomena such as a person, when they negate the inherent existence of a person, they are unable to perceive the accumulators of karma, experiences of results. They are unable to perceive that. So while being a non-inherent existent person, they are unable to perceive those persons as accumulator of karma, experiencer of results, and so forth. So it is difficult to perceive the combinations of two. Combinations of two is, while being non-inherent existence, yet one is able to perceive as the accumulator of karma. One can still perceive the accumulator of karma, experiencer of results. So since it is difficult, this is the difficult point of the Madhyamika view. Yeah. So then the next is the 탐지 가난 일본 기자 달리 규모 미로와 세대 되나데 가리리 일본 라 달리. That's all. Yeah. So that's all. And so if one is mistaken with the measure of the object of negations and were to refute everything or all, then it is inappropriate for it to appear like an illusion. So therefore, as you analyze suchness with analytical reasoning, you find no productions, and thereby you negate inherent production, but you do not negate every kind of production, cessation, and so forth. It is thought that if you did, then they would become empty of performing any functions, like the horns of a rabbit or the sons of a barren woman. And it would be untenable to have any interdependent functions and agents within that mere illusion-like appearance that is left over. So what here is trying to say is the modes of appearance like an illusion. So when one analyzes whether something exists inherently or not, and if you cannot find the inherent existence, then you negate that thing as being non-inherent existence. So you negate the inherent existence of the thing. So for example, if you analyze whether productions is inherently existent or not, and then you do not find an inherent existent productions, then you negate the inherent inherently existent productions, or you negate the productions that is inherently existent. So even though you negate the inherent existence of the inherently existent productions, doesn't mean that you negate productions. So the difference here is you negate the inherently existent production doesn't mean that you have to negate the productions. If you were to negate productions, and cessation and so forth, then those things or those compounded phenomena, they are able to perform functions. Then if they were totally eliminated, then I say it will become like the horns of a rabbit, or it will become like the son of a barren woman, that they do not exist at all. And then in this non-existence, totally non-existence, then it would be untenable to have any interdependent actions and agent within that mere illusion-like appearance that is left over. So this mere illusion-like appearance that is left over is the thing that we are trying to find out, that Kishla is going to talk about. So 400 stanzas and the Chandrakirti's commentary quoted are quoted here and to support this point. So basically it means that if one realized dependent arising, if one realized dependent arising as it is, then all phenomena will appear like an illusion. So if you read through these words, then the summarized meaning is: if one realized dependent arising as it is or exactly, then all phenomena will appear like an illusion. Merely existent is not a mistaken thing. That's right. Yeah, so, and then here it says, and therefore upon such thorough analysis, and then this is under the outlines of if the subject exists from the perspective of reasoning consciousness, it is a fault. And it is not a fault because if it, but the remaining illusion-like appearance factor, but the remaining illusion-like appearance factor in place of the negation is not a fault. I repeat. So if the subject from the perspective of reasoning consciousness exists, it is a fault. However, it is not fault for the illusion-like appearance in place of the negation to remain. to remain, then it is not a fault. So it is not a fault for the illusion-like appearance in place of the negation to remain. Yeah. So if subject exists from the perspective of reasoning consciousness, then if subject from the perspective of reasoning consciousness exists, it is a fault, and it is not a fault for the illusion-like appearance in place of the negation to remain. So this under this outline. And here is the explanations of this quotation from the 400 stanzas. So he says, therefore, upon such thorough analysis, since the inherent existence of things is not established, that illusion-like appearance itself will be left as a remnant for each thing. So meaning that when one analyzes with reasoning that whether things exist inherently or not, then if the inherent existence is not found, then the inherent existence is negated. So, and when it's negated, that illusion-like appearances itself, it will remain. So it will be left as a remnant for each thing. So that illusion-like appearance itself is it will remain for individual thing. And this one is under another outline. So the outline is it is a fault to apprehend illusory appearance as true or intrinsic existence. However, it is not a fault to apprehend them as mere illusion. So he says, therefore the apprehensions of dependent arising as illusion-like appearances that are merely existent is not a mistaken apprehensions of illusions. So to apprehend the dependent arising as illusion-like appearances that are merely existent is not a mistaken apprehensions of illusions, but it would be mistaken if illusion-like appearances were apprehended as established by way of their nature as truly existent. So what it means is not wrong or is not mistaken to apprehend the dependent arising of illusion-like appearances as merely existent. So it's not wrong. So however, it is mistaken to apprehend those illusion-like appearances as established by way of their entity.
没虽然求也是记住啊，那这个我就没让他就嘛别写过来，西巴可以多的，没让他们也是西巴可以多的，没让他们也是哇，西巴可以多的，没让他们的，别呢没让他就话的，就话的。
Civico
哦，西边多，他西边多了，西边可以多，
对
我西边可以多，西巴是多的哇，多西巴跟多是经济是什么了？多西巴跟多是经济更高的，没让他们也是吧，没让他，是吧？没让他们呢，没让他看到，就是计划的、计划的能够也是，能够的，人呢，那我哪些计划的计划，要么也是，是吧？也没让他们也是西巴可以多，没让他们也是对。
The King of Concentration Sutras also says, so in these quotations of King of Concentration Sutras, it talks about the examples. So the going through cycle existence, or another translation for this is samsaric beings. So it's like a dream. So no one is born here, nor does anyone die. Yeah. So even so one goes how say the death and the yeah. So the birth and the death do not exist as it appears, and then it is like a dream.
反正这是怎么的，这个西方可以多什么，基本的计划要嘛，然后一直被计划的计划要嘛，然后一直被计划的计划要嘛的，说的然后一直被说的这个计划的你把要嘛的是吧？这跟西方这个对，去博那些，去博的去的，就嘛的，那一路上的去到那些，你就那些，那就是也是，他讲的什么都细节的，就是说，到底这人是你怎么说？所以that the reason
So going through cyclic existence is like a dream. So no one is born here, nor does anyone dies. And as I mentioned just now, there is no birth and there is no death as it appears, right? So meaning that no one is inherently born here, nor does anyone inherently die. So no sentient beings, humans or life can be found. Means that there is no inherent existent sentient beings, humans or life can be found. Then these phenomena are like form, lantern tree, illusions, and etc.
那听到了，等到多多的搞些个呢，实际计划的就会跟上，计划的就会跟上，看得起呢是吧？计划的就会跟上，看得起呢，因为不行了，我们这个生意，这个生意嘛，那你这个这样门路吧，现在呀，先给他讲的，你嘛干了，你嘛到不来，你嘛到不来呢？你刚刚你就不老实吧，你嘛在。有时呢，有的我，你这样那样的，那怎么搞？跟这个呢，也是，那个呢，也不是我，那个呢，也不是我的，是吧？你学的，这个国家嘛就也是，是吧？我是国家嘛，对吧？给我的去过也看到老师不到哪里去对吧？你把结果的，让你周末的结果的，这哪里对吧？你这样，你要嘛的，啊，你把那个去哪？那么我到不，到那里，你这个哪下的？然后这个是呢，贴过去，我的。我现在我晓得也是。
Yeah. So the summarized meaning is persons and the like of these verses. So the summarized meaning is persons and the like who are born, die, and transmigrate, and who bear analysis are not found, not even a particle. When sought with the reasonings and analyze suchness, nevertheless, positive and negative effects occur relative to illusion-like phenomena. You need to arrive at an understanding of such statements. So when one analyzes that whether persons and etc. exist inherently or not, then not even a particle or not even an atom of inherent existence can be found. So even though there is not even a particle or atom that exists inherently, however, all phenomena are like illusion. That all phenomena are like illusion in which the white and the result of white and black karma follows. So meaning that the result of positive and negative karma is tenable in these illusion-like appearances.
我的结果是的，我去上过去公办那样，这么多个小娃嘛，你把是， 不接着吧，那个接着把西的东吧，哎呀，这么大个啊，说嘛，类似等到这么一个，这么写着，是吧？那个，那个我都是的事。
That's right. And this here is under another outline that even though it appears as empty of being obstructive and coarse, obstructiveness and coarseness. However, it doesn't. Is that? Yeah. So even though it appears as empty of obstructiveness and coarseness, it doesn't arise as illusion-like. So it doesn't appear like an illusion.
这个都是我们学的是吧？按照描写去告诉是吧？描写去告诉对，是吧？按照或者有，他切不起，他这边到这里到慢是吧？他这边到这里看到慢一吧。所以刚不要这边最基本脏根本不起，
不在这里到外面没吧？
哦，不在这里，那这边到家里叫慢一吧，是吧？他这边到家里叫慢一吧。谁讲的呀？我这把多大？这几把脏的么你把第这当下第一是哪里？刘老师的，那完了，我是不是被要把这边啊满意吧？是吧？你满意吧？讲这个多少什么的，没得瞧，是吧？讲这个多少什么的，都没得瞧啊，我没得瞧，你说的习惯就是，说的你习惯，你嘛给你查出的那个人是，我给你查出的哪里是我，是吧？我记着话，也看到，专门的瞧今天把头反正就么给你瞧出来的得马的是，人拖起来把些个东北的弄啊，是没是吧？我记着把个东北的弄啊，在就没把到，要是呢，你的那的，人老说的弄啊呢，三天份瞧就满一把是吧？满一把，你讲这呢，多三木印度，专门的瞧说了，瞧完呢，就么给你瞧嘛，这是，你瞧就么给瞧嘛的。얘는 소지라 빠시게 또마 맞춰가지 예스 소지라 빠게 또마 나와지 예스 와 에랑이 주게 또마 나와 게 말이스 아이들이 또마 나와 말이스 오다디 오다들이 와 아이들이 또마 나와 말이스.
So moreover, some do not place and maintain the mind within that view that has soft in meditative equipoise, the ultimate modes of being, but just gain a stable single-pointedness in which the mind does not apprehend anything at all. Through its power, when there arise from it appearances such as mountain that previously appeared hard and obstructive, now appear insubstantial like a rainbow of thin smoke. This is also not the illusion-like appearance explained in the scriptures. Is an appearance of objects as empty of coarse obstructiveness or coarseness and obstructiveness, rather than the appearance of objects as empty of inherent establishment. So if one do not sustain meditations on if one do not develop the decisive views on the modes of being of objects in the meditative equipoise, if one do not develop such decisive view on the modes of being of object, rather and if one were to so if one in the meditative equipoise, if one do not develop the decisive view of the modes of beings of things and sustain the meditation on it without doing this, and if one only stay in the meditations, not apprehending anything. So even though one is in the single-pointedness in which the mind doesn't apprehend anything, and through the power of it, through the single-pointedness, the power of single-pointedness, and when the meditator arises from the single-pointed meditation, appearances such as mountain previously appear as hard and obstructive, but because of the power of the single-pointedness in which the mind doesn't apprehend anything at all, and things will appear as insubstantial, like a rainbow or a thin smoke. So even though things like mountain that is obstructive and there is a hard now appear as insubstantial, like a rainbow or thin smoke, it is still not the illusion-like appearance or the appearances like an illusion explained in the scriptures. So it is merely an appearances of object that is empty of coarse obstructiveness. It is not the appearance of objects as empty of inherent existence.
我到底那点，俺到头几上把的，把钱拿完也是哇，头几上把给东把拿完他去，他让你去这个东把拿完嘛，也是他多多的在，头几上把给东把拿完去，让你这个东的拿完的，你嘛也是，是吧？那让你这个东的这个不嘛的，也到嘛的嘛呢？讲的这个说的是呢，年纪节目容易，节目也是年纪节目容易，但讲这个，所以我的这不可是年纪节目啊。 인지 제거로와 인지 제거로 제다 아 도지 체계에서 이제 얘네들 시가 제거로 인지 제거로 나다 강한데 와 되게 그렇게 라바또 나한테 나 우리 보면 너무 많이 이랬어 너무 많이 와 어제 사디 매봐 나 그래서 와 라니 주고 엄마 너희 그래도 너무 많이 대다처럼 많이 가봐이나 장세서 체계에서는 자꾸 되는 거 가지고 제거로 와이 제거로 장세 되면 좀 와. 이게 그러와 고지 체계에서 있으나 이것도 비해봐 제목을 주는 고지 체계에서는 내가 지야 걸어와 내만 또 물어와 어디지 그래서 또 되는지.
So the summarized meaning is appearance of objects as empty of coarse obstructiveness is not the appearance of objects as empty of inherent existence. So emptiness is the absence of inherent existence. It cannot possibly be the lack of obstructive hardness. So otherwise, there would be the fault that it would be impossible for an apprehension of true existence to arise on the basis of apprehending rainbows and the like, and it would be impossible to generate a consciousness realizing the absence of true existence on the basis of apprehending and obstructive objects. So the meaning is, appearance of object as empty of coarse obstructiveness is not the appearance of object as empty of inherent existence. If you were to say that appearance of objects as empty of coarse obstructiveness is the appearance of objects as empty of inherent existence, then fault would follow. The fault is it will be impossible for an apprehension of true existence to arise when you apprehend rainbows. So rainbows is unobstructive, right? Unobstructive. So it would be impossible for a true grasping to arise when one apprehends rainbows. So similarly, it is impossible for one to generate consciousness realizing the absence of true existence. The realizations of non-truly existence on the basis of apprehending obstructive objects. So if you assert these as these, then faults will follow. Fault is, it is impossible for the true grasping to arise when you apprehend rainbows, and it is impossible for a consciousness realizing the absence of true existence to arise when you apprehend an obstructive object.
Ona jitashina jimi teshin jo malaka chagri yes that kuwata uriwa. Ona jitashina jimi teshin jo malaka chagri yes na. Ta jimi teshin jo pena jimi na nigi shibi toa. Ta kuwa shibi toa. Na taji onde neba shibi neba tela tini la tini na wate na wate ma simbi na iba neba tena shins that pet wa tena shins wa.
And the next outline is the method through which things appear like an illusion. So, well then, what do you do so that illusory objects appear without mistake? You see illusory horses and elephants, for example, with your eye consciousness, and ascertain with your mental consciousness that no horses and elephants that accord with the appearance exists. So up to this, and in reliance on that, the statement arises that these appearances of horses and elephants is an illusory or false appearance. So up to this point is the example. So it shows that when one sees the illusory horses and elephants, then one sees it with one's eye consciousness. And when one ascertains that there is no horse and elephants as it appears, then one ascertains it with one's mental consciousness. So likewise, so first it talks about the example, then similar to this example, actual meaning that it refers to is person. So persons and so forth undeniably appear to your conventional mind while you ascertain by means of a reasoning consciousness that they are empty of inherent existence established by way of their intrinsic natures. So in reliance upon these two, so these two refers to the appearance to your conventional mind and the ascertainment by means of reasoning consciousness that they are empty of inherent existence. So in reliance upon these two, the statement arises that the persons are illusory or false appearances. So the persons are like illusion. Yeah. So owing to that essential point, the meditation in equipoise on space-like emptiness is on the non-existence of even a mere particle of the referent object for apprehending characteristics. If this hits home, an illusion like emptiness will appear as you look at the appearance of objects in post-meditation after you have risen from that meditation. So because, so if one, let's say properly meditate, if one properly meditate, if one in the meditative equipoise single-pointedly focus on the emptiness. Yeah, so if one's meditative equipoise hits home, means that if one's meditative equipoise is effective, if one do it properly, then in the meditative equipoise, single-pointedly focus on the non-existence of even a mere particle of the referent object for apprehending characteristics. So means it means that the apprehensions of the referent object for the apprehensions of sign So not even a particle exists. Not even a particle exists inherently. So when one is in the meditative equipoise, single-pointedly focus on such emptiness. Then if this meditative equipoise hits home or is effective or is done properly, then when you rises from the meditations, when you come to the post-meditations, then appearance of object will appear like an illusion like emptiness.
그들이 와서 지난 아시는 내 다음에는 곧 먼저 투 제스래 내가 뜻을 또 와서 들어와 치 다음에 뭐라 아 사람이 내가 치 다음에 막 누구인 단순한 해결이 했는데 그게 이제 뭐는 혹시 뭐야 이가 치 다음에 뭐가 먼저 체리인데 뜻을 또 와서 들어와
Yeah. So in fact, actually, I plan to read here. So end this chapter and then come to the next chapter. Plan to cover up to this point, and then in coming class, and I can talk about the subclasses of phenomena. However, I still have some left, so I only up to this point only. Only up to this point. So in coming class, and I will cover the remaining, and then we will start the subclasses of phenomena.
개체 모레시아스 소마티가 다들 가서 가도 배니가 담에 소마티스 오셔서
가서 대출이 남에 이거라.
대시 담에 됐더라.
So the subclasses of phenomena, I'm going to teach it in the coming class. So it contains many important points. So it's good to read before class.
네. 오늘 예의도 올라가는 때마다 와도 그저 좀 이제 담아서 저는 지금 때마다 저희는 이제 먼저 수고 그러다 끝나고 또 남아서 가지고 무서운 그냥 신중히 해도 그냥 나중에 최소 뭐 지야 이와지다 단단 장리 유튜브에 막 접하니 또 그래 근데 이 시기는 네 한번 좋아하시 내가 많이 봐 단단히 해요 뭐를 내야라서 그래서 정말 한다 그래도 이제 아니 봐 멤버들 내셔반나가 근데 좀 그런 스타가 내가 뭔데 비내세 타라키네 서디지 공부가 있는 것도 그래서 사태지 근데 두시야 뭐지 지금
So we conclude this session with dedication. We dedicate the roots of virtue that we have accumulated, especially through these Dharma lessons. So we dedicate these to the Buddha Dharma and also sentient beings in general. We also dedicate these roots of virtue for all upholders of Buddha teaching, mainly His Holiness the Dalai Lama, to live eons long, to have excellent health, and may their all enlightened activities and holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously and pervade in all 10 directions. And we also dedicate these fruits of virtue for our beloved teacher, Kherish Lama Sopa Rinpoche. May the unmistaken reincarnations of Kherish Lama Sopa Rinpoche be swiftly returned and continue to turn the wheel of Dharma for the sake of sentient beings and teachings, so that we will have the opportunity to receive the profound teachings from Rinpoche again. And we also dedicate these fruits of virtue to the world peace, and may excellent happiness prevail in the world. May wars, conflicts, pandemic, disaster, natural disaster be pacified immediately. And we also dedicate these fruits of virtue to those who help others, such as doctors, nurses, and those who help others financially. May they live long, and may their good wishes be may they live long, good health, and may their good wishes be accomplished instantaneously. Samhodaya Dejin De Deda Kage Jesu Dalo Jeki Wa Deda Tam Jeratu Mo Tongin Dawa Rinpoche Maki Pana Kikyoji Kiba Nyamba Mebaya Nobewa Jo Ripi Dawa Rinpoche Maki Pana Kikyoji Kiba Nyamba Mebaya Gune Kondo Bewa Jo Jesu Joju Belan Chitse Sese Kanjin De Dugan Chana Bimo Tenzin Gazo La Soa De So Shen De Le Jo Jo Kane Bene Maluba Kane Jue Sambe Yishino Kane Tsume Tenzin Gazo La Soa De So Tu
些了多说，对吧？给三年让走路上给我也是给我介绍，像新的干用嘛，对不对？对不把准备给了作用，说备就在人不接些当准备是真备完了，那样必须准备国家先。对马路就为国际服，因为等到马球做完一堆垃圾都准备这边，木萝卜西瓜西的一人把味道就算感受进了，当给谁当给都给老婆些路被准备养就三倍送给上都这边都有些说，还有让为各位情况那边当的往马路中为呢，今日希望在这个作为下边是的把都等有。